Anyways, hello everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to be discussing the dating game killer. My name's Zion Black,
I'm Rachel Shu.
And I'm Kiana Goody.
and as always, we're going to be discussing cereal.
But not the kind you eat.
Today we're going to talk about Rodney James Alcala. He was born on August 23rd, 1943.
He's a Virgo. That explains a lot.
I'm also a Virgo, so no, it doesn't.
I'm a Libra, so. In his personal life, his father abandoned his family. He joined the U.S. Army in 1960. He served as a clerk. In 1964, after a nervous breakdown, he was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder by a military psychiatrist. He claims to have a genius level IQ. He graduated from UCLA after a medical discharge from the Army. He later attended NYU using a fake name. The Allies John Berger with an E, where he studied film under Roman Polanski.
So, since his dad abandoned him, that could play into a reason why.
Yeah, guys, his dad left him. Can you really blame him for strangling kids?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
A lot of serial killers have stressors in their life.
And I mean, him going through the army, they could have also potentially put him through a lot of things like that he wasn't ready for. Yeah.
Big facts. So when we're looking at the total number of people he could have killed, it has a pretty big range. It's from like 5 to hundreds.
Yeah, to over 100 plus.
This is kind of crazy that they never found like half of them in the first place, and they're just like, he might be responsible for it.
They
Yeah,
can't even
they're like
verify that it was
assuming.
him. Yeah.
But like it matches the rest of his victims
He has
on
a
how
certain signature.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that signature. Strangling people and bringing them back to life and then strangling them again? That's weird. He's a little freakily.
So he'd put them on consciousness with like the closest thing that they could find. And then whenever they'd wake back up, they'd be like
tortured again.
Yeah, tortured again. And then they'd be beaten to death or raped.
A lot of things, guys.
One of his victims was 8 years old.
Yeah, the ages range from 8 to like 37.
Old people is kind of weird, and I think it's even weirder to like consider that he was on like game shows, like dating game shows. Like, no wonder those don't exist anymore because this fellow ruined everything.
And I found this interesting. Investigators found a collection of 100 of photos of women and teenage boys photographed. They speculate he could be responsible for many more murders in California.
A lot of people say that people who take pictures or like take certain pieces from like a crime scene usually use them as like trophies.
Yeah.
As like a memorabilia.
That could be.
Yeah, that's super weird. And I think like it's really weird because when we look at other serial killers, it's like typically like there's a like wealth divide. Like typically they're not killing people who are in like the top 1% of wealth, but no, not this guy. He's killing people who are like daughters of I think national banks of like millionaires. This is insane.
He killed somebody famous's daughter.
I
don't know. Some people do that just to. Some people do that just to prove that they can do it. Like just to prove that he's not gonna get caught.
That's not like out of his ordinary for him because he was just doing it and then going out into the open.
Right. He was able to play it well. I mean, tell me how you're gonna be a serial killer and be on a dating show.
Yeah, that's
make himself very present.
Makes himself
like
look normal
on live TV.
And then he didn't like change his appearance at
all.
A
lot of people that do that just to throw it in their face, like, oh yeah, you're not gonna catch me. I'm literally in front of your face, and you still can't get to me.
I mean,
I'm on a live TV show.
It really shows how different the United States is. Like from now till then, like now, if you killed someone, even if you like did a minor crime, you're getting found by Twitter in like 2 seconds. But this guy, he traveled literally across the nation and was unable to be found. And even when he was found, he wasn't even charged. He was just like slapped on the wrist.
I mean,
Hashtag white privilege.
That's because
it though, I feel like
her frick, I don't know how to pronounce her name.
Oh yeah, her parents didn't want to like press charges.
Yeah, they relocated her family to Mexico and refused to allow her to testify at Alcala's trial. They were unable to convict him of rape and attempted murder without their primary witness. Prosecutors were forced to permit him to a lesser charge. He was paroled to 34 months in 1974 under the something.
Yeah,
do you think maybe if he would have been charged to the full extent, he wouldn't have went on to kill people?
Yeah, because he was on parole in 1974.
You know, but
maybe
also,
he thought if he's just getting parole for what he did, he could continue to do it. If he would have been charged to the full extent, I'm sure we could have stopped him there.
Yeah, because 3 years after he got off on parole, that's whenever his next witness was.
I mean, yeah, this guy was getting it on parole. It's kind of crazy that he's still like plotting stuff, and it gets off parole and goes out and does it again. Like, it's.
I think if he would have been
crazy.
charged to the full
He
extent,
could have been like he should have at least put rape on his case because then.
Or at least been charged as like a sex offender.
Yeah, exactly.
Like on the registry.
Yeah, he has to go knock on people's doors. Hey, I'm a registry. Like people wouldn't mess with. Like people wouldn't like know to stay away from him.
Right.
You'd think, but like it's kind of weird because he was also like released earlier than his initial date because he was such a good prisoner. They said, and it's kind of weird how he could just like, switch back and forth.
Right. Yeah. Some people are really good at faking it.
Literally fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And it's weird because a lot of serial killers do that though. Like you'll meet them in person and you would have never guessed it.
And nope, they're serial.
And then there's other serial killers who just don't give a fuck.
And I think he was like a mixture of the two. Like he could switch back and forth, but he also just like didn't care.
I bet you I feel like a lot of serial killers have a lot of mental disorders.
Well, yeah.
Like a lot of personality disorders.
Yeah, he had like the what was it? Was it mixed personality?
Antisocial something.
Personality and
antisocial person. Yeah.
And it's just so weird that he was just able to go in and out of society, just killing folks and not getting caught.
Literally. But I feel like a lot of the reason that we catch a lot of people now, I feel like it has something to do with technology. Because if we didn't have as much technology as we did, I feel like people would get away with a lot more.
Yeah.
Like you have cameras literally everywhere all the time. They have like
Nothing.
They can find your car. Like that's what I'm saying. Like you can't get away with anything, really.
Yeah, especially because like databases and stuff. Because like when he went to New Hampshire and he was like freaking camp counselor.
Yeah, that was after his first victim.
Like
imagine. Like, here's the thing. How is he allowed to register as a camp counselor after he raped and tortured a girl?
So that's whenever he changed his name.
John Berger. It's like such a weird name. And
I mean, I'm sure it was simple and easy.
How did
John's such a generic name, people don't really look into it.
I mean, how did he come up with his last name though, like Berger? Like
who knows? Maybe he knew somebody. Yeah. Last name, like in the military or something.
Possibly. Oh yeah, that's actually yeah.
I mean, what if he went around taking people from like in the military? Like you could pass away. You could take somebody's name.
Just take their name.
Yeah.
I mean, that's honestly possible. That's very possible.
Yeah. So he fled to the East Coast and enrolled in NYU using the name John Berger. During summer months, he obtained a counseling job at New Hampshire Arts Camp for Children in 1971. 2 campers noticed him in his wanted poster at the post office. He was arrested and brought to California.
Guys, it's crazy because he was on the FBI's most wanted, by the way. At the time, the FBI's most wanted criminals, and he was still able to get a camp counseling job.
With children. Like, you're telling me you went and raped and strangled an 8-year-old girl, and then they're going to allow you to work with children at a camp, but not at home. They're literally away for days. Like, you could easily kidnap a kid from a camp.
And it's like crazy because like all of the campers had like good reports for him. They're just like, oh yeah, no,
he's a
John is
such a
amazing.
great staff member.
Yeah, no, but he's gonna lure you into the woods and kill you. Like this is such a weird dude. Like
yeah, like the authorities have compared him to Ted Bundy in fear that more evidence continues to mount. He may be one of the most profiled serial killers in American history.
That's crazy. Cause like I didn't even know who this dude was until
People don't talk about it.
hit that quick Google search and such. Like people don't talk about this guy, but like we'll talk about other people who did lesser things than him, though. Like you know, I mean, it's not to downplay what they did, but still, it's crazy that we don't talk about this guy.
Because then, like, it's also people try to recreate their their favorite serial killers, like
signature.
Yeah, their signatures.
I mean, and then like just looking at him, he seems like a Chad. Like he seems like you just look at him, you're just like, well, like no wonder, like.
And a lot of women like don't really think twice about it. Like if they're good looking and they have like good manners and whatnot, we're like, oh yeah, he would never like. There's no way that he's not gonna hurt me.
Psych, I lied, and you know, goodbye. Like
that's crazy.
So weird. He gives off like Hawaii vibes. Like he looks like he'd be a surfer, but like, and he's just so weird. And now he's 77 years and like still alive.
He's on death row.
But but like he's been in jail for like the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah, he got sentenced to death row March 30th in 2010.
I wonder what he's like now.
In California for 5 murders.
I kind of want to talk to him. He seems like a cool guy, but like, seems like he tried to like lure you into prison with him. It seems like he tried to like.
He probably would.
Exactly. But like he charmed you into doing it though.
Yeah.
You feel bad for him. You just be like, okay.
Or maybe he's like completely crazy.
That is also.
I mean, it could go either way.
I wonder.
Like imagine if they put like a woman in there with him, in a room alone with him. Imagine how that go.
He'd probably try to beat her with something, strangle her.
And walk out.
I think he would not do that the first time, but he'd try and get it like the second and third time, and like continue to convince her that he's a good guy, and then it's crazy.
For some people, it's like the feeling.
Yeah.
The adrenaline that they get from it. That's why a lot of people like serial killers do what they do. Like the adrenaline that they get out of it. It's kind of like a drug. Like the first time you do it, it is what it is. But like I know that sounds weird, but for serial killers, it's weird. Like the first time they do it, they're like, oh, this feels great, and then they continue to do it. And
I don't remember my first time strangling an 8-year-old though. But like this stuff is like the way he just carried himself. Like he
acted like nothing happened in public.
Like he was like, ordinary. Oh, just get in the car.
Oh, and I know your parents.
Yeah.
Like that's literally what he told that 8-year-old girl. He's like, yeah, I know your mom and dad.
I mean, but imagine if the police didn't, like someone did call.
It's because a good girl, she was literally like, oh yeah, I have to respect my elders.
And that's like, crazy how like times have like changed, that she's willingly kind of
like now kids are like, yeah, no.
See, there was a witness that seen that too, and they called the police.
Like, but imagine if they didn't call the police right there. There's just like, kind of weird, but okay, I'll let it slide.
Yeah.
It's weird that like she could have very well been dead, or like even led to him being worse of a person because he didn't get caught. Like,
I just think it's crazy that they didn't press charges.
Also, how fast is this dude? Like, he's a runner. He's a track star. Like
he has enough time to rape him, strangle him, and get out.
Like they were there. Like he knocked down the door and he was out the back door that instant and was gone. Like never to be seen again. It's probably ran to New Hampshire, like New York. Like.
But a lot of them have like multiple plans for multiple things to happen. Like they have plans for endgame. As soon as it's on their mind, they have a plan for any possible ending.
But do you think he like really scouted it out, or was it like a spur of the moment?
I feel like it was a spur of the moment. Like whichever girl he's seen and he wanted, he was gonna get.
Yeah, well, but I'm saying like the escape plan. I'm sure they scouted out pretty well.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he planned like.
Cause the 5.
I mean, here's the thing. You're telling me that every time it was a spur of the moment, and he still didn't get caught.
Because he just left the girls there, or he'd take the bodies to like.
I mean, maybe he just doesn't care about them. I mean, it's not like he was using them for anything great. Like, if he respected them, there's like certain patterns that serial killers use when they like feel remorseful for their victims and yada yada.
But he didn't seem to have any of those patterns that were like highlighted. He was just like.
He literally took pictures of them. Like he didn't care. He kept them as trophies. Their bodies weren't of any like.
What kind of cameras do you guys think he used? Did he use like a Polaroid? Did he like print them off at CVS? Or, like, I don't
imagine going to CVS and seeing somebody.
Probably one of those
Yeah.
film cameras.
Yeah, but
The
like,
ones
how
that
did he?
were able to develop
Also,
it.
I mean, he was a film major, so he probably
Oh, yeah.
knew how
He
to do
probably
this.
had like a what's it called, like a black room.
I mean,
or
I think like
whatever.
moral of the story. I think all people who do film,
Where they,
like who
like-
have like a film developing room, are weird. You should just be weary of them. Like,
Yeah, like the film developing rooms where he like sticks it in the water and whatnot and hangs it to dry. I mean, that'd be the easiest way to do it for him.
yeah, I
He
mean,
could print as many as he wanted and nobody would see him do it.
so I mean, but also, would he care that people saw him do it?
I mean, probably not.
Like,
But to be safe, I'm assuming. I don't know.
And it's crazy to think that he's gotten away with so many.
and it's kind of crazy that they don't have like a motive for it. Like, you know, what is sentiment to like this murderous, like strangulatory person? Like, there's really none that, you know, at least that was highlighted. Maybe like, as Kiana pointed out, like childhood trauma or like trauma in the military, but there's really
Literally,
none.
trauma can like spark something. Like sometimes people learn, like normal people will learn to like deal with it and cope with it and get through it. But other people, like, it just triggers something in them.
And that could be anger or
Stress or like
He killed him out of
anything.
stress. You're stressing him out, man. I mean, but
I mean,
like,
some people, like I've seen like shows or whatnot where it's like when your victim talks too much, that's when you legitimately murder them.
I mean,
Like stresses them out, or like when they say certain things, like certain words can trigger you, or
I have a serious question though. Like, when he was at the camp counselor, like, did anything happen there? Did like the camper go missing? Did like, it's kind of
it
weird.
doesn't show.
Like, do they just not know? Because like campers go missing all the time, and I assume like it's in New Hampshire. It is an arts camp, so his parents are probably loaded. So like,
I mean, I've seen like crazy camp stories. Like we have a Girl Scout camp here, and it got burned down.
right?
You didn't know that? There's a Girl Scout camp, like an abandoned Girl Scout camp, and it literally got burned down like years ago. Nobody really knows what happened.
Wow.
People go up there all the time, like during Halloween,
it's haunted.
because it's haunted.
Haunted. That's kind of scary.
Like people literally went and just burned it down. Just like the albino farms, people go there. But those are things that you never hear about.
Yeah,
because publicity doesn't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one thing. Like, did they just not say that? Did the camp just not release it to the press because this is going to be bad publicity? They're like, oh,
well,
you know, we're
don't want to stress.
we're connecting one and one here. Like, if someone would have been missing there, they might not have wanted to like release it. Like, oh yeah, you know, we had FBI's most wanted person here.
He did
come
have,
to our camp.
We hire anybody. Like what?
He did have 2 unsolved murders in New York.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of crazy that he like legitimately dated the people who he like ended up murdering. Like there is some that he had been in like actual like
girl, I'm gonna kill you.
he had been in like
And then
actual
rape you?
relations with them. Like he had keys to their houses and stuff, and he was just like, you know,
Like y'all were really letting a serial killer in your house.
yeah. I mean,
Let me know how that works.
it's crazy that legitimately like just happened.
I feel like it should be required that if you get into relationships with somebody, they should know your record.
Background check.
Yeah, you just run background checks. You
I mean, people think that's weird, but like, imagine if these girls would have known, like, oh, he has a charge for raping an 8-year-old girl. Maybe I shouldn't date him.
You know, I mean, I don't think that would stop half of them. You know,
no, because he'd probably be like, you're a changed man. It was just like.
It was a couple years ago. You know, I already paid my debt to society, or
type
whatever.
thing, like what?
It's just so like frustrating that they didn't really find out, or like he didn't get in trouble until it's like already way too late. He already killed like hundreds of people, and then do you think he killed people in jail? Like,
it's even crazier is that people don't even talk about him, like you said. Like people talk more about Ted Bundy than this guy.
and I don't even think Ted
Not
Bundy
to
has killed as
lessen.
many people as
Right.
him.
Like not to lessen Ted Bundy, he was crazy, but I mean, if we're gonna talk about serial killers, I feel like this guy should be mentioned too.
Yeah, I mean, like Rachel was saying, I think, or is even Kiana maybe, but like he has like one of the highest kill counts of like any modern American serial killer.
Yeah. And we
And
don't even talk about it.
And he just didn't care about it either. Like,
he's like, oh, no biggie.
No biggie. Like,
yeah, I've killed like 100 people. No big deal.
It's crazy. But the thing is that he had like boys and girls photos.
Yeah, most people who are serial killers like tend to only do one gender. He just didn't care.
Yeah, like one gender, one age group, one like something.
They usually have like a specific type.
But he didn't. He just had
and
the way that he
sometimes
killed
it's due
them.
to trauma. Like some serial killers will kill women based off of like what their mom looks like. Like maybe their mom beat them as a kid, so he chooses to kill women who look like his mom or resemble his mom.
Oh, so that might be like with his dad, but I don't know if he's like dating people who look like his dad. It's kind of sus.
Well, yeah, he chose women and men.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, true. So maybe he had some like mommy issues and daddy issues.
Do we know if he ended up raping those boys, or it was just like the
No,
pictures?
I didn't hear anything about the boys
It's
at all.
interesting.
I only heard about
Find
the pictures.
anything.
Like I don't think parents think about how much they impact their children though. Like the things that they do impact their kids.
So
Yeah.
much.
Like I've seen kids like who like act out just because of the simple fact of like what their home life is. There's
Yeah.
kids who get beat at home who act out in public aggressively because that's what they're used to. They're not getting shown proper affection, so they're not going to act with proper
So I mean, it
affection.
might be the exact same case with him. Like maybe his mom was like the same way, and just like always maybe convincing him that he was in the wrong, or like somehow
Could have been that way.
just having that like same personality, like oh, you know, charming, but also like what was it like deceitful, like.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just crazy, and that's where I really think like parents should think more about how they treat their children growing up, because how they're treated is going to affect them when they're older. Well, I'm just saying, like parents don't think of like what they do and what they say and how it really impacts their kids, especially at like young ages. I feel like from like the time they're born until they're like 13ish is when you should really watch what you're saying to them. I mean, after that, kids kind of get used to whatever you're saying and ignore it. Like parents can yell all the time, and you're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I mean, the thing is that like after like 13, basically everything that they're thinking is kind of like set in stone.
And you get into a pattern. You get into a rhythm. Like
Yeah.
what you're taught is the only thing you know.
And exactly at like 13.
You act out based off of what you've been taught and how you've learned things, and that's exactly how like kids resemble their parents. Period.
Yeah.
All the time. And that's when people are like, oh, like you're gonna turn out just like your mom, or oh, you're gonna turn out just like your dad. Like in some cases, most cases that really is true. But in other cases, it just kind of depends on how your child deals with trauma and like how they're gonna act. Like, I don't know. Like, say you had a parent who like did drugs or whatever, and people are like, "Oh, you're gonna turn out just like them." But if you're not around them enough to kind of catch their patterns and their way of acting, then it's not possible for you to really act like them because you don't know what they act like.
Exactly.
But if you're around your parents all the time, you're obviously gonna resemble something.
Or if you like see it hurting them enough, then you won't want to be like it at all.
It goes one way or the other, and it's a 50-50 shot.
Yeah, and that's so true. It is like super 50-50. Like
you can either turn out just like them,
or nothing like them,
realize how it affects them, and act a completely different way.
Yeah. So I think we all came to the conclusion it's probably something with his like childhood that made him the way he
really
is, and maybe and probably the military too, because like he went to like Vietnam, like what that was like the 60s when he was drafted, probably drafted if anything.
Yeah.
So he went to Vietnam, probably saw some shit if anything.
And I mean, like now, I think that's why they have certain like places you can go after you get out of the military for like PTSD, because now doctors know like that's a real thing. But back then, I'm assuming they didn't have any like medical conditioning for it, so they couldn't be like, oh yeah, you probably have like severe PTSD and childhood trauma. Maybe we should get you to a therapist.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you'll be fine. Like, get over it.
And the thing is that like, I mean, how poorly stuff was documented. Like, you know, he could have been a POW. He could have like actually like seen like and like been in like real combat in Vietnam. Like maybe he was like choking someone like out, and you know that's when it clicked. Like I like this. Like I'm into this.
And they didn't even think to like talk about it or
like medical check him. It's like, you sure you're okay? But I guess also that's like this is the time period.
Right.
Like you're a man, get over it. Dust off. Like
because of the stereotypes they had back then. Like men didn't really have feelings, this type
Yeah.
of a stereotype. Like now we're more open to the idea of like, oh yeah, you probably do have like some serious issues, and maybe we seriously should think
Maybe we
about
should
getting
treat you for it.
right, like get you into counseling. There's medication, this, that, and the other. I mean, I personally don't recommend medication because I think it's stupid, and
But
a lot
yeah.
of it's like American made and this, that, and the other. But that's like a
Yeah.
personal thing. Sometimes it really does help people.
I mean, yeah, and I can see the medication argument because like a lot of them are like weird. Like if you have like ADHD, burn them out, give them speed. Like
Right.
it's weird because like when you like see your child like bouncing around in public or not, like give them more sugar, give them caffeine.
But when it comes to medication, when it's recommended by a doctor, you're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, they must know what's best for my child.
Exactly.
They got a degree in this. They went to school for this.
This is our anti-medicine arc of this podcast, but but also it's just so weird. Like this, like just think about what he thinks about in prison, though. Does he like reminisce on everything that's happened? Does he have like a journal of it, or like
talk about it?
has he written books in jail? Like, 'cause he seems like the kind of guy who'd write a book, like
Maybe.
How I Did It, or like so. Like considering that he's coming to the end of his life, will he like reveal like other bodies that he's killed? Like,
I wonder if he will give out names, like when he's on death row. Like,
I mean,
because then they could stop looking.
I wonder if they've like gave him a deal yet. Like been like, oh, we'll only give you like 20
we
more
won't
years.
kill you. No.
We won't like. Well, maybe. Like maybe they'll be like, oh, we'll only give you 20 more years if you give us a list of names, like a full list.
He's the kind of guy. He looks like he's gonna live to 105, still be killing people.
Literally.
Like, he's gonna be in there for a while, it seems. So, like from the looks of it, he's still going.
Like, do you guys think he even remembers all the names of them? Like, there's too many. I feel like.
Yeah, but I don't know.
But
if
a
just
lot of
forget
people
about
treat
killing
their victims
people.
special. Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure they probably still have those pictures documented somewhere. They could pull out all those pictures and be like, oh, who's this? And he'll be like, oh, such and such. I did it this time. Yada yada. And that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
when you wrap your whole life around basically killing people, I'm sure you'd remember it.
at least like one, like at least the majority of them, if anything.
Literally.
So
more than the 5 that they know are exactly just them.
The thing is, he knows he's not coming out anytime soon. So I don't know why he doesn't just like break a deal with them or like, be like, hey, here's my story.
Or maybe he will try to break a deal when it comes closer to him, like actually being on death row. Like days before, he'll be like, hey, if I give you this list of names, don't.
Yeah, like try and but would he really want to continue living?
I don't know. People are weird. People are crazy.
I don't know, but it's just so weird to think about like what he's done behind bars, like at all. Like, is he part of a gang? Like, what is he like
is
doing?
He part of a gang?
He seemed like the kind of person who could just like, because of how much he went in and out of society. I don't think isolation's a new thing to him.
Right.
But he's also like scrawny.
I'm sure he.
That is true. He is scrawny, but he looks like he has like super strong grip or something. Like, because he strangles people.
Yeah, he knows how to kill people for sure.
So I don't think anyone messed with him at all. So
I'm curious if at the time he went to like UCLA in like school, if anyone else there
knew what he was doing,
or like if they're serial killers too. Like,
yeah, I mean,
maybe.
Like from those years.
Maybe it had something to do with that, but also then again, I really think it's just trauma.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's what the bottom line is
treat your kids right.
I don't know if it could be trauma all the way because it's also like the way he did the girls.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he had some like hazing experiences while he was in morgue. Maybe they were messing with him. It was just like
maybe there was something that was unreported, like that went unreported. Maybe there's a woman there that like did some really messed up things to him.
Yeah, like a
we
nurse or
think
something.
that just men rape women.
Oh,
but
no.
Women rape men.
Yeah.
All the time. Like it happens. It just doesn't get reported as much.
yeah, and like
you know why? Because men don't want to fall to their masculinity like that.
I mean,
Like men kind of. I feel like the stereotype still kind of stands. Like for a lot of men in their head, they're like, "Oh, I'm a man. Like I'll be fine. Like I have to be strong. I
and
have
just
to get
muscle
over
through it. Like
Right. But like women rape men. It's a real thing. And people
Yeah.
are like, "Oh, how's that possible?" Girl,
It's
anything's possible. Like literally anything's possible.
I mean, and you're not wrong. And
maybe there was a nurse there that like abused him, like sexually.
I can't want to go down like in his army route though. Like it's not unheard of for them to like haze each other, especially like if they're at war, they get bored. Just strangle people. Like like it's not like unheard of, and maybe this is him getting back, like feel like he's in control now.
Empowered.
Yeah. So there's a lot to like
There's
unpack.
a lot of missing pieces to the whole story.
You look like you want to read something off the fact sheet, Rachel.
No, I'm just looking at like his patterns. Like all these girls were naked whenever they were found. Like they found bite marks.
And most of the
Oh yeah, he bit them on their like breasts.
Yeah.
Like that's
and most
like
of the
that
time when
was
serial
Joe
killers show remorse, they won't leave the bodies naked ever.
yeah.
Most of these serial killers, like when they want to show remorse, there's like patterns of serial killers who will legitimately go out and buy clothes for the women that they kill.
Like they'll treat them like a human, like him. No.
Only after they're dead, though.
He just
they'll like clothe
treats them like a doll
and do their hair and all this stuff and like put them away.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
That's
strange. I mean, he doesn't have any remorse. He left them naked.
Like he just left.
He doesn't
like
have any respect for their body.
I mean, and like, how do you think that they like found some of these dead bodies? Because a lot of these bodies were like in apartments. Like he was in these women's homes.
Yeah. So
I mean, I'm assuming like after they didn't show up for work for so many days, or like nobody could get a hold of them. I'm sure a friend or like a coworker probably went by their house and was like.
I mean, considering how willy-nilly they gave out keys to their houses,
literally,
probably.
Like you're telling me you have a key to your house to your boyfriend?
And it's
like, and I mean that's like normal, but like, yeah, not that quickly. I don't think.
And it's weird that they just like, again, they were just handing them out, and then like also the apartments that this guy was living in, because he had to live somewhere. You're telling me they didn't like look into him at all? Because like nowadays they do that. Like if you're like a convicted felon, they'll like deny you apartments.
Yeah.
But like him, like, and I think it's extremely more like anti like convicts back then. So they didn't look into him at all. And there's just like, yep, serial killer coming to our apartment.
Go ahead, get yourself a
But
place.
I feel like it was also the girls' apartment.
I mean, maybe he stayed there. He probably could have couch surfed. I mean, honestly.
Because there was
he was charming enough to get keys to their house. I mean, it would make sense that he was allowed to stay the night, this, that, and the other.
Yeah, I mean.
But I also feel like he had to have somewhere to keep all those pictures.
Or did he just do it at night?
Yeah, but like, like you're saying, where did he keep those pictures at? Like, do you have like a cam that he brought around with him? Like, because there's like hundreds of photos.
That makes sense, though. I mean, he majored in film. I mean, nobody would think anything of it. Oh yeah, I take pictures for a film class at college.
But like some of the people were like naked, like and he's like.
Maybe he was one of those weirdos that stays even after they're dead until they're found.
Ew.
That's weird.
And then he leaves. Oh yeah, I mean, and it seems like it does. It's not like unlike him. Like there's so much stuff that he is like. He just does and it doesn't seem like he thinks about it.
No. Nobody really thought about it either. It wasn't just him that didn't think about it. I mean, nobody else did. So he thought it was fine. I mean, if he's not getting caught, why already stop if he knows that he can't get caught?
Yeah, like I mean, especially after that first time, he only got like 34 months after doing like messed up stuff.
Found out and didn't even press charges to the full extent.
Like
what?
Maybe that's his like switch. Like, hey, I can get away with it.
But like, we also have to put ourselves in that girl's shoes. Like, would you want to go see him in court after he raped you and beat you at 8 years old?
I mean, press charges.
I mean, and you're not wrong with that, but also like she says that she doesn't remember it. Like, she says now that she doesn't.
But also, even today, the amount of rape cases there are, and the amount of women there's so many unsolved rape cases, and a lot of cases that don't even make it to trial.
They just get dropped.
Literally, because people don't care.
Yeah.
And like, women won't take them to court because a lot of women lose. You can have full evidence, and you'll legitimately lose.
Yeah.
Because the system is fit for like
white men.
Literally, actually, Like, that sounds sexist, but
I mean, it's
honestly,
just true.
the
Like,
system is fixed for white men. If you're a white man who has a high-paying job or works for the government or has like a
do whatever
military
the fuck you
background,
want. Like, yeah.
you can literally do whatever. You could go around raping women and you won't get charged.
Like he did. Like
You'll be like, oh, there's no way he was such a great citizen.
Like, yeah, exactly.
He served for our country.
He was such a cool guy. Like, you guys couldn't see that, but I was
if you're
like,
anything other than that, I mean, screw what you have to say. You're going to jail anyways.
like, for real. He's just like, it's like the biggest example that you can give of like this guy being so privileged, like,
And that's sad that our system is that way.
So it's
I mean,
really
maybe
weird.
he knew that too. Maybe he knew, like, oh, the system's fixed in my favor.
Especially after the first time, like, after the first time doing it, he definitely caught on.
Only got parole.
Like,
no, I can do whatever I want. The system's fixed in my favor. Why does
So?
it matter what I do?
it's truly weird and like really sick. Set 35. But this is America, like,
Literally.
and it's kind of sad that like
Welcome
still
to the
like
US.
what, he was born in like the 40s and it's still true today. Like,
society doesn't change.
I mean, there are
It's only
definitely
gotten
serial
worse.
killers out there though. Like, and it's crazy that there's people that are probably just like him doing the exact same stuff,
And
still not caught.
Would
Like,
hitmen be considered serial killers?
ooh, that's a good question. That's a good.
That's a
good. I mean, it depends on how you like define serial killers. Is it like,
Like mass
serial killers
murders
are
or
just
just-
mass murders with signatures, basically.
Yeah.
if you're a hitman, do you really have those? Because you don't want to leave a signature.
I mean, you're mass murdering somebody, and most people, when you're a hitman, you're gonna murder them whatever is easiest to clean up and has no evidence. And
But but serial killers don't not leave evidence
once a
though.
hitman realizes like what's easiest, he'll continue to do it. That's a pattern. That's a signature.
I mean, but is it though? Like when we're
Doing
looking
the
at
same thing repeatedly is a signature.
when we're looking at these serial killers though, that signature and like people finding that gave them gratification, and I was like, their thing. They're just like, oh yeah, like look, they found me, but they're not gonna catch me. Like,
I mean,
like
there
the
are
Zodiac
hitmen,
killer.
There are hitmen who have been taken to prison.
I mean,
qualified
yeah.
as serial killers.
I mean, you're not wrong at all in that, but I don't know if I'd class them in the same group as like the dating game killer, because that's really not what he did.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
I mean, it's all up to your own opinion, I guess.
like, and like also I think it's like, why are you doing it? Like, hitmen are doing it for like money and like other people. Like, money is the biggest factor behind it.
Or
But
a favor.
yeah, but like serial killers are doing this for like their own gratification, and like they like get off on it. Like
Like their own.
Yeah. It's all for them. It's more like a selfish act. Hitmen do it basically because they're paid to.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like I saw that's just why I wouldn't class him as like a serial killer. As hitmen as serial killers. Dating game killer, definitely a serial killer. Like,
Yeah.
definitely, there's no doubt in my mind that
I mean, yeah.
he's a serial killer. He's psychotic. Like,
Yeah.
But it's crazy that most people don't like know him as a serial killer, like we already talked about.
Like, a lot of people have never even heard of.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's weird to think like he killed like pregnant people.
Yeah.
Like his girlfriend that was like pregnant and he just left her. Like, that's weird. Like,
I mean, as I said, for a lot of people, it's more like whatever they've dealt with. Like, as I said, like, maybe he had serious mommy issues.
like for real. I mean, also like, why did he bite their like boob? Like, that's kind of like why did he make that of all
I'm sure
things?
that was a signature, though.
Or
Like,
I don't
why?
know if it
Why
was
would
a
he make-
signature? Maybe it was just during like that one victim.
No, there's like multiple that that was like his like thing. Like,
I don't know. Maybe it was
Yeah, maybe he was
a sexual
like
act
so-
and it turned into a signature. Maybe that's what he found out he liked. Maybe that was one of his ways at getting back at women in like the slightest. Like, I think one of your breasts are like one of the most sensitive spots on your body.
so he's
If you
just like,
can,
fuck.
if you can, I mean, yeah, like if you can hurt it, I'm sure that gave him some form of power.
And he would have had to been on top of her.
Like, I'm sure that had to hurt.
bringing them back from like being suffocated. Like,
Yeah. I wonder what that little girl is like now. Like, how has that trauma affected her?
she's old.
Well, yeah,
There's
but
like
I
an
wonder,
interview
like,
with her. I watched. It's crazy. Like, apparently her family like didn't talk about it. Like, they never.
and that's sad
They just
because
avoid
that
it.
trauma's really gonna affect her.
They just treated her. But also, she just said that she just didn't remember it. Like,
Well, yeah, but you
I
know,
mean, there's
like,
still
She's
trauma
probably
though. But
tried
like,
to like.
there's
get
a
it
lot
out
of
her
things
mind.
like, and you're right. Like, a lot of people cancel out a lot of things in their head because they don't want to remember it because that's a trauma response.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird that like her parents just sent her back to school after that. Like, I mean, and her family or like parents were like wealthy, so I'd imagine it wasn't like a public school, but like, how do you just go back to school after like being kidnapped and like strangled? Like,
Which is crazy.
and like when you look at like the officers' reports and stuff, they were saying like there's tons of blood loss. But like, it was this little girl. Like,
She was literally 8. And maybe it happened young enough that like she was able to grow past it.
I mean, like
But I
how
feel
many?
like to be able to grow past it, a lot of people need closure. Like, and she didn't have that. Her family wouldn't even discuss it with her.
I mean,
Like, that has to be hard. Like, you're telling me you went through, you got kidnapped, you got raped, you got beat, and your family won't even discuss it with you? You had to
didn't
go
after
through
the
it.
guy, like,
You had to go through it. The least your family can do is at least talk to you about it and be like, hey, like, how do you feel?
Nope, they just moved her across the country.
Yeah, they just moved to
That's
Mexico.
sad. And
all
that's the
like-
way that a lot of parents handle things now. Like, there are girls who legitimately get raped,
And
like,
then the parents
in
just
their
go.
teenagers, and their parents just won't discuss it with them.
Like,
at all.
It's sad.
It's
Yeah.
so sad, and they don't think of how that affects their kids. Once again, like, that's traumatic.
So like, I guess we can all like blame it on like parenting. Honestly, though, like,
And then there's also like legitimately just rape victims who try to move past it and won't deal with the closure. They just won't talk about it. But they don't realize like those emotions are gonna build up and affect them later.
Yeah,
I mean,
like their relationships, how they like react.
No
to
matter how much you
people.
want to say that it won't affect you, it's
It's-
trauma.
yeah.
It's trauma. No matter how you put it, it's traumatic.
so like,
It's classified as traumatic experience. Like, it's gonna hurt you, or you're gonna get closure and move past it. But either way, there's gonna be some sort of pain with it eventually.
so like, it's just like his timeline though. Like, you know, go
He
to
did it for
college,
years.
like go to the army, go to college, you know, kill people, go back to college.
Graduate from UCLA.
Yeah, graduate
Go
from
to
NYU.
yeah.
Like,
Like,
as
he
like
was
an
doing
art
great,
student.
and nobody.
You're right. But like, no one like batted an eye at it.
Because they thought it was normal. Like, he was doing great. He
Like
was going through school. He was
went to the army, went to school. But like, that's just like how society is. Like, look, you served your country.
And that's the
you're
thing
learning.
with,
you
like,
got educated.
mental disorders. Like, people don't pay attention. Like, you could have great grades. There are kids who are straight A students who legitimately have like severe depression, severe anxiety. People don't care.
Yeah, I mean, well, since we're running out of time here, I love the discussion, guys, but Rodney Alcala is just such a weird guy and like such just undiscussed. Like, it's crazy the audacity that he had to just like kill people, become on FBI's Most Wanted, go on a dating show.
I think we can all agree that this man is not discussed enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this has been Serial Killers. My name's Zion Black,
I'm Rachel Shue.
I'm Kiana Goody.
and we discuss cereal.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.